Hi everyone, this is a tutorial to demonstrate how to correct a cable without having to rip back all of your work. So here you can probably tell that I've made a mistake on my cable. So I have a consistent pattern of cabling going on here, and then the last one, for whatever reason, I decided to do it the other way round. Which looks pretty too, but that wasn't what was supposed to happen. So I'm going to show you here how to take that cable out and correct it without having to rip back all your work. You're just going to pull back the 4 stitches that are involved in the cable. Now you can use the same process with any kind of size of cable, so long as you have the correct number of stitches. So it doesn't matter. I mean, this particular cable involves 4 stitches, but the same could be done with a cable of 2 stitches or 3 or however many. This pattern just happens to involve 4 stitches. So first of all, you need to identify how frequently this cable should be worked. So in this particular pattern, you're working the cable once every 4 rounds. So on 1 round you work the cable, and then you have 3 rounds where you just knit the stitches like I've done here. You need to know that just so you know how far back you need to pull your work to kind of reach the mistake. So this round is supposed to be a cable round, so I need to pull back 3 rounds of stockinette and then a 4th round that was the cable round where I've put my stitches the wrong way around each other. Okay, now here I am going to use a small double pointed needle. The main reason I'm doing this is just so that you can hopefully more clearly see the process of what I'm going to do here. You can actually do it without the extra needles. You can just use your existing needles, which is what I would do if I wasn't demonstrating it. But I think using the extra needle here is just going to help you see a bit more clearly what's going on. Okay, so first of all, you take the offending stitches off your needle and we're going to carefully rip them back 4 rounds. So it should be 3 rounds of stockinette. So I'm just looking to pull. This is quite a sticky yarn, which does make things easier, I have to admit, because the stitches don't just slip apart. You kind of have to work to separate them. So there's 1 round removed. There's the second. The third is next. And then this 4th one is where the cable was carried out. So I'm going to pull the yarn away from those stitches, and then I'm just going to pick them up with this extra needle that I've got. Okay, there we go. So as you can see, as you pull that round out, the stitches kind of uncable themselves. They just kind of flip out into the position they really want to be in. All right, so I've picked up those 4 stitches and I've now got these 4 rounds of yarn, and I'm going to show you now how to correct the cable. So you work the cable as you should have worked it the first time. In this case, it's a cable 4 to the front. So I'm going to use my right needle that's on the stitches to pick up at the back the 3rd and 4th stitches, slip those off the needle, and then pick up the 1st and the 2nd stitch again, and that will cross them over into the correct pattern, as you can see there. So I'm going to pop those stitches, now that they've swapped position, back onto this extra needle, and then I'll show you how to then use this yarn to re-knit them. Okay, so you can see you've got 4 strands of yarn here, and that's just my working yarn, and you want to just make sure that you are then reusing the yarn in the correct order. So you can see that's the last round, that's quite obvious, that's the next one. And then just look really carefully to make sure that they're sitting in the right order. Sometimes they can get mixed up. So this is the yarn that I want to be using for this round. So I'm going to just hold it over this spare needle, looped it over the needle, and then I can just lift my knit stitch over that loop and off the needle. So that has knitted that first stitch. So I'm going to slip that to my right needle. And I'm going to repeat that process for each of these stitches using the same piece of yarn. So making sure you're still using that first piece of yarn. So you just have to make sure you're always identifying the right piece of yarn that you are knitting with here. And just to say as well, if your cables involve purl stitches, the same process would apply. You would just work these stitches as a purl if you needed to, rather than a knit. But in this pattern, they're all knit stitches. So there's the second one knit, and again, I'm looking to make sure I pick up the same yarn, knit the third, pick up that yarn one more time, and the fourth. Okay, so I'm going to slip those stitches back to this extra needle I'm using, and hopefully you can see that I've now got a correct cable. So all I need to do now for 3 rounds using these 3 strands is knit these stitches. So I'm now going to go to the strand that's at the next one that's at the bottom. That's for my next round. I don't need to cable these, so I'm only knitting them. So each time I'm just picking up the correct strand with my needle, lifting the stitch over that strand and off the needle, which creates that knit stitch. Okay, I'm going to repeat that process for 2 more times because I've got another 2 rounds still to work, but hopefully you can see now that you've created the cable as it should have been, and then you're just rebuilding these rounds. So I'll keep working and show you what it will look like once you're done. Right, okay, so hopefully you can see there that I have reworked each of those rounds to correct the cable. And the lovely thing about this is that I haven't had to unpick all 4 rounds of this work just to correct this one cable. I've just corrected those 4 stitches. All right, the only other thing to say is sometimes you might find that your stitches look a little bit larger than the surrounding stitches. That's just because you've kind of been stretching and pulling on them while you've been working this. It will settle down once it's been blocked. Okay, right, so that is how to correct a cable pattern, and I hope it helps.